yarn lovers, in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this pretty summer cardigan. Now you will need the written pattern to make your cardigan, so I will link the written pattern in the description. So we're going to start with the bottom ribbing. So I've got 4.5mm hook. I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook and chain 11. I'm now going to put a half double crochet in the second chain from our hook. So here's our first, here's our second chain. So we'll put a half double crochet in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a half double crochet into each chain all the way across. For a total of 10 half double crochet. We're ready to start the next row, so we're going to chain one and turn. The chain one does not count as a stitch, and a little tip for keeping your ribbing nice and tidy is keep that chain one turning chain quite tight. We're now going to start working into the back loops of our stitch. So we have the front loop here and then the back loop. So we're going to put a half double crochet into the back loop of each stitch all the way across. And for this first row it kind of helps just to turn your work over so you can easily see the back loops. So again you're just putting a half double crochet in the back loop only in each stitch all the way across. And we're ready to start the next row. Chain one and turn, and again I'm keeping that turning chain quite tight and it helps to give you nice neat edges, and we're just going to repeat that row. So again, half double crochet in the back loop in each stitch all the way across. Now when you get to the end of the row you're going to find that if you have kept your turning chains quite tight, that last stitch is going to be kind of hidden. It's going to be difficult to see. I'll show you once we get to the end of this row. Now it looks like we're at the end of the row here, but if you turn your work over, this chain here at the side, this is actually the last stitch, and because we only had a small turning chain, it kind of pulls it to the side. This is what helps give you the neat edges, so you need to make sure you don't forget that last stitch. If it's easier, just count your stitches as you go. Count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as you work each stitch, and then you won't have any problems. So you're going to chain one and turn, and we're just going to repeat this ribbing now until you have a total of 111 rows for the extra large size. And if you're working from a different size, just check all the details in the written pattern. So you go ahead and finish your ribbing, and I'll meet you back when we're ready to start working on the main body of the cardigan. So I've worked my 111 rows of ribbing, and you don't need to fasten off. We're going to start working across the edge of our ribbing now. So we're going to switch to our larger hook. So I'm changing to the 5mm. We're now going to start working single crochet stitches across the top of our ribbing. You're going to need to work a total of 167 single crochets across the top, and this works out at roughly 3 single crochet stitches for every 2 rows of the ribbing. So we've got one row, a second row here, so we want to get 3 single crochet stitches in there. So we're just going to chain one and put our first single crochet here, then our second, and then our third. So we've got 3 single crochet into 2 rows of ribbing, and so I'm just going to continue across until I have a total of 167 single crochet. So you go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back when we're ready to start the stitch pattern. So I've gone ahead and worked my 167 single crochet across the edge of the ribbing. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to start with a half double crochet in the first stitch, skip the next stitch, and in the following stitch 2 half double crochet. That's 1 and 2. Skip the next stitch, and in the following stitch 2 half double crochet. And you're just going to repeat this all the way across the row. So skip 1, 2 half double crochet in the next stitch, skip 1, 2 half double crochet in the next stitch. So you go ahead and finish this row, and I'll meet you back when we're ready to start our next row. So I've come to the end of the row. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and we're ready to start our next row. So the stitch pattern is a very simple 2-row repeat. It's very easy to remember. So for the beginning of this row, we're just going to put a single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Now this side is the right side of the work, so if you need to, you can go ahead and pop a little stitch marker on the front so you know that this is the front. So it's very simple, just a single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So you go ahead and finish up the row, and then I'll meet you back and I'll show you the next row just one more time. So I finished my single crochet row, and I'm simply going to chain 1 and turn, and again this chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, and we're ready to start our half double crochet row again. So we start with a half double crochet in that first stitch, skip 1, and then 2 half double crochet into the next stitch, skip 1, 2 half double crochet, skip 1, 2 half double crochet, and so on across the row. And once you get to the row, you'll turn, and then we'll start our single crochet row again. So you're just going to repeat those 2 rows now. So you want to keep going until your piece measures between 20 and 22 inches from the bottom of the ribbing upwards, and then we will be ready to split for the armholes. So I've gone ahead and finished that, and we're now ready to split for the arms. So what you're going to need to do next is you need to have the right side facing. You should have ended with a half double crochet row. So with the right side facing, your half double crochet little groups of clusters will be the back side of the stitches. So we've got the right side facing, and you're going to put a stitch marker in the 40th stitch from the right going to the left. Put a stitch marker in the 40th stitch for this size. Check the written pattern for your own size, and then we're going to do exactly the same from the other side. We're going to count the stitches across and put our stitch marker in the 40th stitch. So we're ready to start working on the front right panel now. So we're going to chain 1 to start the row, and I'm going to single crochet in the next 39 stitches. So we're still working in our stitch pattern. So you're going to crochet all the way across until the stitch before you get to the marker. This is the 40th stitch. We're not going to work into the stitch, so single crochet all the way across until you get to that marker. So I've worked all the way across. Here's our marked stitch, the next one. We're not working into that, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to just work on these 39 stitches now. So we're going to start with a half double crochet in our first stitch. We're going to skip the next stitch, and in the following stitch 2 half double crochet. So we're continuing in our prairie stitch pattern. So skip 1, in the following stitch 2 half double crochet, skip 1, in the following stitch 2 half double crochet. So you're just going to continue this. You're going to repeat this all the way across until we get to the end of the row. So I'm coming up to the end of the row and I'm going to put 2 half double crochet into that last stitch, chain 1 and turn. And so our next row in the prairie stitch pattern will be a single crochet row. So we're simply going to put a single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So I've worked all the way across and we're just going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're back to our half double crochet row. So you're just going to repeat those last 2 rows, and you want to keep going until this section measures around about 8.5 inches. So you're going to measure from here upwards. So this will be the armpit and you're measuring up to the top of the shoulder. So you want that to be 8.5 inches. So again, you will need to check the written pattern if you're making a different size. So once you finish the front right panel, it should look something like this. You're going to fasten off your work, leave a long tail because you can use that tail to sew the shoulder seams up, roughly about 2 to 3 times the width of this panel will be enough yarn. So you're then going to repeat this procedure with the back and the left panels. So you're going to ignore this skipped stitch and then start your first single crochet in the next stitch and work your single crochet row across up until you get to your second marker, and then you will ignore that second marker and your last stitch will be here, and then you'll work in stitch pattern until you've got the same amount of rows as your first panel, and then you'll do exactly the same here. Ignore this marked stitch, put your first single crochet into the next stitch and work your row across, and make sure you work exactly the same amount of rows for each panel. So once you've done that, you then need to put your right sides together. So you're going to have your back panel and then you'll want to fold over the sides like so, and you're going to be seaming all the way across this shoulder seam and then all the way across this shoulder seam here. You can use stitch markers to pin it together if you like. So I've got my long tail here. I'm just going to thread that onto a large darning needle. And we're just going to whip stitch this together. So you're looking for your first stitch. So you're just going to go through under both loops of the first stitch on both sides and then just pull that through, and you're just going to do this all the way across. So you go to the next stitch and then pull that tight and just keep working across. And once you get to the end, I like to just go through that last stitch one extra time and just tie a little knot with that, and then you can just weave that tail in. Just go through a few stitches one way and back the other way. And you're simply going to repeat this process for the other shoulder seam. So once you have both your shoulders seamed, we're going to turn a cardigan back the right way around again, and we're going to start working on the sleeves. Now it doesn't make any difference which sleeve you start with first, they're both worked in exactly the same way. So we're going to be using the 5mm on that one, the 5mm hook, the larger hook that you're using. And we're looking for that stitch that we skipped, the stitch that we've got this stitch marker in. So we're going to start off here. So you want to go ahead and put a slip knot on your hook, and then start with a single crochet into this skipped stitch, this marked stitch. So we're just going to put a hook in and put single crochet in there. And we can take that marker out now. We're now going to single crochet evenly all the way around the sleeve opening, and for this size you're going to want a total of 54 single crochet. So that works out at 27 on each side of the sleeve. So if you put 27 up to where our seam is and then another 27 going back down, you'll have the correct number of stitches. So this works out at roughly 1 stitch per row, because you've got the edges of the rows here, so for each row it's roughly 1 stitch. So we've got 1 single crochet already. We'll go in here, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Keep going round until you've got a total of 54 single crochet. And once you get to the end of the round, we're going to join to our first single crochet with a slip stitch. I'm going to use the reverse slip stitch to keep your yarn in front. Hook goes into the stitch from behind. Whoops. Pick up that yarn and then pull it through like so. And we now, because we're working in rounds, we need to turn after every round to keep our stitch pattern correct. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. So this is our slip stitch here. So this is our first stitch. We're going to skip that stitch, and into the next stitch we're going to put 2 half double crochet. That's 1 and 2. We're going to skip the next stitch, and in the following stitch 2 half double crochet. So we're just working the exact same stitch pattern we've been working from the beginning. So skip 1, 2 half double crochet into the next one. So just continue working around your sleeve in the stitch pattern, and I'll meet you back when we're ready to start the next round. So we're at the end of the round here, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch this first half double crochet, but on the following round we're going to need to work into this slip stitch. So keep the loop on your hook a little bit looser than you would normally do, so that slip stitch is not too tight. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're now on to our single crochet row, and we're going to put our first stitch into this slip stitch here. Just remember, when you get back round to this side, this is where the slip stitch is joined into, so we don't work into this stitch, we just work into the slip stitch itself. So our first single crochet is going to go in there, and then going to go ahead and put a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So we're coming up to the end of the round, and this last stitch here is where the slip stitch is in, and we already worked into that slip stitch on this round, so we don't need to work into it here. So we're going to join with the slip stitch to this first stitch, chain 1 and turn. So we're ready to start our half double crochet round. So we're going to skip this slip stitch and work 2 half double crochet into the next stitch, skip 1, 2 half double crochet into the next stitch, and we're just going to repeat this around. So this is round 4, and we're going to continue in the stitch pattern for rounds 4 to 15. So once you've worked 15 rounds in the stitch pattern, then I will meet you back when we're ready to start the decreases. So for round 1 of the decreases, we'll chain 1 to start. We are on the right side of our work, so the last round that you would have done would have been a half double crochet round. So we're first of all going to start by skipping this slip stitch. This is going to count as our first decrease, so we're not working into the slip stitch at all. And then we're going to put a single crochet into the next stitch, and we're going to put a single crochet into each stitch all the way around until we get to the last 2 stitches. So I've worked all the way around. We've got 2 stitches left here, 1, 2. This is where we joined our slip stitch, so we don't count that as a stitch. And we're going to single crochet 2 together. So you put your hook in, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops, and that's a single crochet 2 together. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to our first stitch, and again we're using that reverse slip stitch join. And we're ready to start our next round, so chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to start with our first half double crochet in the first stitch. Now previously we've been skipping this slip stitch. We're not going to do that on this round. So we're going to put half double crochet in this first stitch. We're going to skip the next stitch and then we put 2 half double crochet in the following stitch. And we're going to continue in our stitch pattern. So skip 1, 2 half double crochet into the next stitch, skip 1, 2 half double crochet into the next stitch. So you go ahead and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Just coming up to the end of the round, we're going to skip this last stitch, and then here this is the stitch that the slip stitch was joined into, and normally we're not working into this, but because we only had 1 half double crochet on this at the beginning here, we need to add another one in there. So we're going to put 1 half double crochet in the other side of the slip stitch. Now what this does is it keeps our seam in the middle and straight. That's the reason why we've done it like this, and it also keeps all of your little clusters of stitches, your little half double crochet clusters, stacked one on top of each other, or you'll get a very wonky seam. So we're then just going to join with a slip stitch to our first half double crochet, chain 1 and turn. So you should now have a total of 52 stitches. We reduced 2 stitches over that single crochet row, that single crochet round. So for round 4 you're just going to repeat round 2. For round 5 you'll repeat round 1 again. This is the decrease round. And then for round 6 you're going to repeat round 2 again, and for round 7 round 3 once more. I've just finished round 7. Do not turn after this round. You should end up with the right side facing, and we're now ready to start the ribbing. I've swapped to the smaller hook, and we're going to start by chaining 9. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. We're going to start working into these chains. We're going to start with a half double crochet in the second chain from our hook. So we're just going to do the ribbing just like we did at the beginning, but we're going to attach it to our cuff as we go along. So go ahead and put a half double crochet into each stitch all the way across for a total of 8 half double crochet. We're now going to join to our sleeve. So this is the stitch here that we started in. So in the next 2 stitches we're going to slip stitch 2 together. So you're going to put your hook in, pull up a loop, put your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then draw that loop through all the loops on the hook. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch as well. So we've worked across 3 stitches, and we're now going to turn, and we're now going to work into the back loops only of our half double crochet stitches. So we're skipping all of the slip stitches, and this is our first half double crochet here. We're going to work into the back loop, and then go ahead and put a half double crochet into the back loop of each stitch all the way across. Chain 1 and turn, and again we're going to work a row of half double crochet stitches in the back loop only. Now, if it helps you to keep track of your stitches, you can pop a stitch marker in the first and the last stitch. Sometimes it can be easy to lose stitches here. I know a lot of people have trouble with ribbing, so you want to make sure that you always have 8 stitches. So again, we're going to do our slip stitch 2 together in the next 2 stitches. So this is the stitch we're already in, so the next 2 stitches are here. So a slip stitch 2 together, then slip stitch into the next stitch and turn, and then we're ready to work into our ribbing again. So half double crochet into the back loop of each stitch all the way across, and remember we're not working into those slip stitches, those are just there to attach our ribbing to the edge of our sleeve. So then we'll chain 1 and turn and start working back the other way. So you go ahead and work all the way around the sleeve, and I'll meet you back when we're ready to fasten off at the end and then just seam our ribbing together. So once you've worked all the way around with your ribbing, you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. Now, depending on what size you're making, your number of stitches could be different. If you've got 3, just work that as you have been for the whole of the ribbing. Just slip stitch 2 together, slip stitch in the next stitch, and then work the final row. But because I've got that 1 extra stitch, I'm going to slip stitch 2 together twice. So we're going to do our first slip stitch 2 together, like so, and then I'm going to do the same again and turn, and then we're just going to work our final row, skipping over those slip stitches as normal, and then putting a half double crochet in the back loop only of each stitch all the way across. And that's my last stitch here, so I'm now going to fasten off. You want to leave a tail long enough just to sew this seam closed. So just going to pop your tail onto darning needle, and we're going to sew through the back loops and then into the bottom loops of the foundation edge. So simply go through the back loop and pick up that first stitch. You're just going to whip stitch these together and go into the next stitch. And you're simply going to do this all the way across. Once you've worked all the way down to the end, just take your yarn through to the wrong side, and then you can hide that tail. So you just need to repeat the whole procedure for your other sleeve, and then we're ready to start working on the front bands. So I've got the right side facing, and this is the front right side of the cardigan. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and marked with stitch markers. I just measured. You want to go between 4 and 4.5 inches for each marker, and this will just help you space your stitches evenly between the markers. We're going to put roughly 15 stitches between each marker all the way around. So I'm using my 5mm hook, and I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. This way we can just go straight in with a single crochet. So you're going to be starting with the first stitch on this edge here. I'm just going to put a single crochet in there, And then I'm going to put a single crochet in each of these stitches across the ribbing. And then start working up towards the next marker. So I've now got a total of 15 stitches up to this marker, and then simply going to move that marker and crochet another 15 stitches evenly, and you're just going to do this all the way around. You might find that once you get to the other end you might not have a full 4 or 4.5 inches, so you might just need to roughly split those stitches up evenly across that last bit. So you go ahead and work all the way around. Once you get up to the neck here, you can just simply put one stitch in each stitch across the neck, the back of the neck, and then you continue round with 15 stitches in between each of your markers. So you go ahead and do that, and then we'll be ready to add the ribbing to our front bands. So once you've worked all the way around, you want to fasten off, and then we're going to join back on this side where we started. So we're just going to put a hook into that first stitch, and we're going to chain 9, and I'm using the smaller hook now, the 4.5. And we're now going to work the ribbing just like we did when we did the sleeve, where we attach the ribbing as we go along. So we're going to start by putting a half double crochet in a second chain from the hook, and in each chain all the way across. And just like we did with the sleeve, we're going to slip stitch 2 together in the next 2 stitches. So don't go into this first stitch, the one we've already worked into the next stitch, slip stitch 2 together, then slip stitch into the next stitch, and then turn, and we're going to work in the back loops only now with a half double crochet in each stitch. And remember, we don't work into those slip stitches. So you should have a total of 8 half double crochet that we're going to be working into for the ribbing. Just working into that last stitch now, we will chain 1 and turn, and then again half double crochet in the back loop only in each stitch all the way across. And we're reaching our edge now, so we're going to slip stitch 2 together in the next 2 stitches, and then slip stitch in the next stitch and turn, and then we're going to work back again. So you're simply going to repeat this all the way around the front opening of your cardigan. So you go ahead and do that, and then it will be time to make our pockets. Now our pockets are made in exactly the same way as the main body of the cardigan. We're starting off with our ribbing, then we're going to work a row of single crochet and then work in our stitch pattern. We are going to use a half a hook size smaller for the ribbing than we used for the main body ribbing, and half a hook size smaller for the main stitch pattern than we used for the main stitch pattern in the main body of the cardigan. So you're going to go ahead and start your ribbing in exactly the same way. You will chain 7 and then work in the ribbing pattern. You will have 6 half double crochet stitches, and you're going to work a total of 17 rows. So you'll work your single crochet stitches across. You will have 21 single crochet stitches. You'll then carry on working in your stitch pattern, and you will have a total of 16 rows. The last row you'll work will be the single crochet row, and then you'll just go ahead and make another pocket in exactly the same way. So the last thing that's left to do is to attach our pocket. So I've just used some stitch markers to pin my pocket out, and I'm going to join in the yarn at the bottom here. And you're simply going to work through the bottom stitches of the pocket and then just attach them to the cardigan. So just keep working along, one stitch at a time across the bottom. And you're just going to continue with this all the way across. Once you've gone all the way across the bottom, you're then just going to turn your pocket around and then start sewing across the sides. So you're going to continue until you've worked all the way across the top. You'll fasten off and weave in that end, and then starting at the bottom, work back up and sew up this last side, and that's your summer cardigan finished. And once it's finished, it should look something like this. And for more summer makes, watch this video next. And if you enjoyed this video, then why not subscribe to our mailing list? Click the link at the end of the video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.